2 by my clock, and we will call the meeting to order. Oops. All right, the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to stand and join me for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is our public comment portion. And any public who have comments for the board are invited to come and speak. Everyone has 3 minutes per person. We would like you to come to the podium so you can use the microphone and we can hear better. Please say your name when you come up. And what's that? You know, that's coming up next, but you know, that might be a little out of order on our agenda, but that will come, we'll do the consent agenda and then the approval of the regular agenda. And we also have a small presentation today, just so you, I forgot to mention that from our, the Wave Bus executive director is here tonight. So going back, item 3, public comment. Do we have any public comments at this time? Okay, Patrick and then Scott, I saw you in the back there too.
Hi, Patrick Ziske, I'm a resident. I had a kind of a question and a comment relating to the Westchester Farms presentation. And I don't know if it would be out of order to answer the question, but it's pretty simple. The question is, the bond that we were talking about floating, is that a bond that the township is floating or Norfolk or the homeowners association? People are very sensitive about the township borrowing money, so I want to make sure that's clear which way it's going. Also, I was going to say, and this one is a harder one. It might not be pertinent, but I wonder if we're reopening the consent agreement, whether this might be the time to reevaluate other provisions of the consent agreement as well. In particular, the ones about who has to provide water, because potentially in the future, maybe the water system ends up being owned by Chelsea or something, and it might be good to put that in there as an option. So I'm just suggesting that if it makes any sense. I'm not trying to slow things down, really. The second thing is, I know there's a provision in there that the township is required to resist any annexation efforts by Chelsea. And I don't know if that's necessarily in the best interest of Sylvan Township to keep that in there either. I don't want Chelsea to gobble up Sylvan Township, but on the other hand, since we're also negotiating with Chelsea about the water system, maybe that is something that could be up as a negotiating point with Chelsea, and it might facilitate an agreement with them if that issue was, if we had the flexibility on that issue. That is the annexation issue. Other than that, I'd love to hear an update about the negotiation with Chelsea, if it's still going on, if that can be done today. And I think I'm just about out of time, but I also want to basically speak in support of the water study that's on the agenda, the financial study, because I think that we should make sure that we're on solid ground financially going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Scott.
My name's Scott Cooper. I live here in Sylvan Township. Oops. We already had a January meeting, but I get at this time of year, with this being the first of the year of the, an election year, we probably got people out there that want to run for office, people here that probably want to run for office again. just informally, show of hands, how many people were here 30 years ago? Lived here 30 years ago? Nobody? One, two, three? Three people. How many lived here 15 years ago? Few more. I'm a newcomer. I've been here over 30 years. And there's a few here, I think, one sits on the board here that remembers it, or a couple that kids here when they graduated used to drive tractors to high school, the senior day, because this was seen as a podunk community of a bunch of farmers. And we did have a bunch of farmers. A lot, the city was not the city yet, and it was part of Lima Township ran half, and Sylvan Township ran the other half, and all of the members were farmers. So we've come a long way, and I bring this up because I think that it bears dreaming upon, wishing upon, hoping upon, gazing upon, of where you think you want this place to be 30 years from now. Even people who are going to run for office or not. We've come a long way, and there is and has been and maybe always will be some discontent and skepticism on behalf of, Sylvan Township and the city. And it's not just Sylvan Township and the city. There's caution in Lima Township too. They've got a new, set of homes being built there now that I think are going to be part of the city, maybe with a 425 agreement. Anybody know for sure? Or is that just going to be part of Lima Township? But on the heels of Patrick's, I have a lot of skepticism about, merging with the city. And for those of you who don't really know it, we hold the key. They are boxed in. They may want to work with us on certain issues, but they can't grow without us. So we really hold the key to that situation. And we should not treat that so lightly that we give anything away, water rights or anything. Well, they can stay in a box and we can continue to grow on our own very peacefully and nicely out here by ourselves, legislating on our own. And we can become like some of those townships to the east that are just known by their township names, Scioto Township or Pittsfield Township. They have little cities in them someplace here and there too. But the cities, dwarf underneath what's happening in the township. And that's what I saw when I came here, because the city became the city and it really became the heartbeat. But there's more to this whole area that involves us out here. And I think we need to keep control of that as much as possible and not give it away.
Thank you. Was there another person? I think I saw someone else with a hand up. Who wanted to speak for public comment? No? All right. I'm sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, thank you for that public comment. Next on our agenda, Marie Gress is here. She's the Executive Director of the Washtenaw Area Value Express, also known as the Wave Bus. And so she's here tonight to talk to us a little bit about the bus.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, for having me, and council for having me tonight. My name is Marie Gress. I am the new executive director at the Wave Bus. I took the helm as an interim executive director back in May, and then full-time accepted the position in November. So relatively new. In the packets that in your packets, I sent a couple of sheets about the Wave, and I focused on our last fiscal year. We follow the state's fiscal year as our primary source of funds. So that's what we follow. And that's the data that I have for you today. The top on the first page in the top right corner is the new service map that we have for Western Washtenaw. Area Value Express. You can see we cover most of Western Washtenaw and a little bit outside of that in Stockbridge. And we're actually having conversations with Jackson County about helping Grass Lake get connected to Sylvan, Chelsea, Dexter, Ann Arbor, and the rest of the county. There's some other high level facts on this first page. I think the most interesting is the data we pulled on overall ridership, and that's in the bottom right. You can see how we're kind of going up and down, and then the COVID drop, right? And we're overall having a positive trend up. We certainly have not recovered from those COVID numbers yet. On the next two pages, I focused specifically on Sylvan Township. The first page, Sylvan traffic. This looks at all of the people coming to Sylvan. So where are those people coming from? Why are they coming here? Those types of things. And from the software that we have, we see that riders are mainly coming from the city of Chelsea, the city of Ypsi, township of Linden, Sylvan, and Superior. So those are where your riders are typically coming from. And then why are they coming here? Mostly for business appointments, could be work, also falls into that category. They may be taking a medical ride, education, going to or from the senior center, other, and then hair were the top reasons there. On the third page, we look specifically at the door-to-door service. The software that Wave has allows us to look at rides based on municipal or township residency. So these are just the people we have in the system with Sylvan addresses. The chart starts in 2021 and goes through October of 2023. So you can see the rise and falls of the main line, and then the lighter color line there for you is the trend line. So you're trending up in ridership. In fiscal year 23, Sylvan residents took 1,380 rides. I was talking to Kathy just before this meeting and I was like, yeah, were they number 2? Were they number 3? And SIO has you beat by like less than 100 rides. So you are the third highest ridership for our door-to-door services. 3 out of 10 rides were given to older adults and 6 out of 10 riders were older adults. So we look at rides and we look at the riders, the trips and the riders. 8 out of your 10 rides were for people who have a disability. 7 out of 10 riders are people with a disability. Any questions on the Sylvan specific data?
No, just I was surprised to see riders coming from Ypsilanti because certainly they're not coming on the Wave bus from Ypsilanti. They would have come from Ypsilanti and gotten to somewhere. I mean, it looks like maybe on Scioto Township, then they would have come on
Yeah.
the Wave bus the rest
Yeah,
of the way.
yep.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I thought so.
Wow. I know you've been working a lot, since I serve on the Wave board, a lot on data, and I appreciate that, because this is good stuff, I think, for our people to hear and for the board to hear. Data's compelling.
Yeah.
So thank you for compiling all this information for us.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions on data? Great. The final page that I have for you are some things that we're working towards in 2024 and 2025. We're getting a lot of requests for youth. Youth are people who can't drive themselves, right? And then if they want to go to the mall, if they want to go to an after-school game, even often after-school practices, they need some form of transportation to get there. They're not allowed to ride the school bus for any of those activities. So we're looking more at how we can increase youth ridership, and that may also include extending our service hours, which has been another big request that the community, all of our communities have had for us. They want to be able to ride the buses beyond 4 o'clock, 4:30. They want to get home from work. They want to go to
Mhm.
community events, right? And we need to extend our service hours in order to make that happen. We've been talking to a lot of community businesses about workforce. Specifically, we've been talking really closely with St. Louis Center, which I know is here in Sylvan Township. We've been talking with some of the retirement communities and the hospital. All of the workers that they're looking for are mainly coming from Jackson County. And so county lines are a really frustrating thing for a lot of service providers, and transportation included. Thankfully, Jackson Area Transportation Authority is very interested in creating a transfer point for us. There's a lot of details that we have to figure out together and how the funding of all that is going to work, but that's looking really promising. We also lifted the idea to the Michigan Health Endowment Fund, seeing as most of those agencies I mentioned are touching healthcare in some way. And that group is also interested in helping get that going. We are looking more at, well, we've been looking at electrification. My predecessor got a handful of electric vehicles and charging stations. They're probably honestly still a year out. We have to figure out the charging station situation first, and then the vehicles. Even if I ordered them today, they wouldn't be ready for 6 months to 18 months, depending on the size of the vehicle. But that will hopefully be something that we're seeing pretty soon. Big focus on safety. We're upgrading the vehicle cameras and our monitoring equipment. Our drivers are all getting first aid CPR certifications. They're going to be getting child and elder abuse training, as they're often they're seeing people's homes, they're seeing how they're coming out, they're seeing interactions in a way that you wouldn't in the grocery store. And so we want to make sure that our drivers are really being mindful of those situations and how to handle those situations when they do come up. And then the final thing in safety here is that we've started conversations with local businesses to help support those evening and weekend rides. The community is asking for those extended hours, and the businesses have an interest in people being out later, using their businesses a little bit more, specifically the bars. Want to make sure that people are getting home safe after a late night of one too many, that happens to all of us, and we need to have a safe way to get people home. And the final thing that I want to talk about is affordability. We're really looking at our fares and what that might look like going forward. And the board approved free fare February. So all fares for the Wave Bus are on us. For the month, we want people to try the bus. We want people to get on there, to talk about it with their friends, to just give it a try, and free fares are one way to reduce that barrier. Any final questions?
Is the free fares, that's for just like riding your regular routes and also door-to-door service, or is
Yep.
it a, wow?
Yep.
Okay,
The only thing that we're still charging for are excursions. So those special trips that like the senior center would
Okay.
do, or like a group of people would do.
sure.
That's the only thing we're still charging for in February.
Okay.
Everything else is free. Mhm.
So when I worked at the University of Michigan, I rode a commuter bus that came to Chelsea to the ice arena. It was an AATA bus.
Mhm.
That we'd all drive from, people came from Jackson to Chelsea to get on that bus, and it drove right to Central Ann Arbor. It had 4 or 5 stops, all university employment. And occasionally we would have high school students from here ride the bus to Ann Arbor, get off on 5th Street, walk over to the bus station to get another bus to take them to Washtenaw Community College.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a lot, but it was very impressive because they were young and they were having to make this long trip all by themselves. Well, thanks to COVID, the AATA discontinued the commuter bus from here. And, I'm thinking, how are those kids getting to Washtenaw?
If you know, let me know.
I will. I will. I mean, that the number of people who are positively affected by public transportation is like, it's hard to know
Yeah.
who they all are.
Mhm.
Yeah. We have an amazing new community relations coordinator, and several times a month, she has dedicated her day to riding the service along with people to try and capture their stories. Because otherwise they're just numbers on a chart and it's not quite the same impact. And then for the Chelsea Ann Arbor Express, AATA is interested in giving us that service, which would be awesome. I'm not sure how it could be funded yet unless we also pair it with that Jackson area transfer point and some other things. So working towards that again. Yeah, thank you.
My husband took that bus too, Sandy. He works at University of Michigan and he would go to the park and ride because parking in Ann Arbor is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And you can take the bus and it's so much easier. Plus, they pay for a parking pass at the U and it's not cheap. So I'm glad to hear that that's maybe coming back around.
Yeah.
How does a resident sign up for the bus?
They just give us a call. They can call dispatch. The number is at the bottom of the sheets here, or book my ride. If they go to the website, they can submit a request there too, and we'll get back to them. We are looking at another app. We have a 6-month free pilot that we're gonna be exploring to see if that's something helpful that the community could use to book the ride. Not everybody wants to make a call. They would rather do it on the phone. So yeah, good question. Anything else?
No, thanks so much.
Thank you so
Marie.
much. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. Thank you for the work compiling it and what you're doing over there. And free February, that's great. All right, our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which approves a couple sets of minutes, bills, correspondence, and board reports. And typically we approve those and then we move on to approve the rest of the agenda. I emailed Amanda, I had a couple questions about minutes. I had a couple things. And she did not have time today, nor did I, to go in and get the verbiage from the meeting that I think was reflect what was actually said. So those were from the January 9th meeting. I think I had 3 or 4 things. And so I mean, I guess I'm not really sure where that leaves us. It's difficult. It's difficult when the packets come Friday afternoon and we're meeting on Tuesday sometimes to make sure that we've reviewed anything, correspond with people, let you know if we have changes to minutes. So I might almost propose we could have a different process. For that, it would allow us time, the board is allowed time to look at the minutes and propose corrections. And I think maybe we need to have some more time to be able to do that. So I have corrections to the January 9th meeting. I don't have them with me. So I suppose I would need to bring them forward to the next meeting to be put on the record.
Well, these would be approved then, and then we would add to the next meeting minutes, the amendments that you would like. Yeah.
Apparently. Yeah.
Otherwise, we would remove these and then add them to the agenda, and then you would ask for the verbiage that you would want.
But I think, didn't we last time that it was like you only have one opportunity to
It is,
correct?
well,
and
it would
then
only
there-
be
so
this,
it's done.
well, I mean, but it will be reflected though in the next minutes,
Right.
the amendments
Correct.
that you want.
But there's no, not approving these at this point,
No.
I guess is what I'm saying. And so that just feels not great. So, having said all that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved?
Thank you. Motion from Amanda.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Rod. All right, motion from Amanda and support from Rod. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I'm going to say nay, just so I'm on the record of having said that. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next is the approval of the regular agenda. Under unfinished business, our citizen of the year is not able to be here tonight. So we left that on there, but that won't be anything we'll be discussing tonight.
We're not removing it, we'll just table it.
Well, yeah, and really when we do it next month, it won't be unfinished business anymore. It will be a presentation. You know, it will be sort of as Marie was early
Oh,
on in the agenda.
okay.
We'll have the thing. So, you know, why don't we just strike that? Let's remove that from the agenda. Because there's no tabling it. It's going to be a presentation at the next meeting. It won't continue to be unfinished business. We've decided who it is. So if everybody's comfortable with that. Go ahead.
Would it be appropriate right now to remove the next two things under unfinished business since Kurt isn't here and these are his? Or would we?
Yeah, because I don't have, I mean, without him here to discuss him.
Correct.
I don't
Okay.
have a lot.
I mean, and he was
I don't
bringing
think
these
he did.
forward, so it
Mhm.
feels, he's not, he didn't zoom in. Okay.
No, he didn't.
Okay. I would like to also suggest we do the same thing with cardiac monitor purchase. That was also Kurt's agenda item,
Right.
and I would prefer to discuss that at an ARPA funds meeting where we're discussing the expenditure of the rest of the ARPA funds.
So we've got assistance to develop a high-level review removed, assistance to review the historical revenues removed, those two items.
And the cardiac monitor purchase
Cardiac monitor.
to
Okay.
remove.
All right,
And then I'd like to make a motion
or add to the
to
agenda. right
add
now.
to the agenda. What was that? Can I see that verbiage?
Yeah, but that was for the motion later. That was
Okay,
for when it
sorry.
comes up later
Okay.
on the agenda, so.
right.
But here. I'll pull it, see if I- So this is, but if you wanted to add, like discussion
I'd
or something like that.
like to make a motion to
Well,
authorize.
not motion yet, because we're not to the, you just, or to add this to the agenda. You're, okay. I'm sorry. Just wanna make sure. Well, the motion, so we're removing some, the motion is gonna be to amend the agenda. And we're gonna be removing some things, and I think Mr. Branham's proposing we add something
Add
to the
with it.
agenda, so. Right. So if you're proposing
yeah.
we add
I
something
would
to
like
the
to
agenda.
add the discussion of Westchester Farms project.
And if we do add that, could we add it to the beginning of the new business?
Yeah, that way we
Okay.
can get Sean out.
All right, that's a lot of changes to the agenda. It pretty much crosses off unfinished business. It would be an addition of Westchester Farms, poverty exemption, fee schedule resolution, VC quote, and additional cameras. That would be the agenda.
Right.
All right. Does anybody have any other additions or subtractions?
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Amanda and Rod. Any discussion? No, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, so then we're skipping through unfinished business. Next thing would be new business, the discussion of the Westchester Farms consent judgment, amendment to the consent judgment as we discussed at our 6 o'clock meeting. So we had a 6 o'clock meeting. Some of you were here for that. We had our attorney present. Mr. LaFear from Norfolk Homes was here with his attorney, and we discussed, proposed changes to the consent, judgment. So this is a first amendment to the consent judgment. And I know a lot, like we said at that time, it's been a while since we've discussed these things. So some of it we had to kind of go back over and refresh people's memory. There might even be, well, I was gonna say new board members since we had all discussed this, but I'm not sure that's the case. So we had discussion about the amendment, had input from our attorney.
Well, I just want to say I have some reticence. I didn't realize we would be looking to move on this agenda item tonight because we got it a half an hour before this meeting. So I have not had time to really think about this. And we got a lot of good information from Thal and from Westchester. But I have concerns on the burden this would put on the residents in that development, knowing that if we create a special assessment district, you know, we're saddling them with that debt. That's a concern of mine. So that combined with just getting this right before that meeting, I'd have a hard time wanting to move on this quickly without having a little bit of time to really think about this. And I'd like Kurt here because I know he has a lot of history and I think he would add to that conversation.
Well, and I understand, and I reflected that same concern at the 6 o'clock meeting, that, you know, we would be putting something on, future residents, and I was not a fan of that. They did say at the meeting, that they would be able to sell them at a lesser cost, and be able to, and that would help that special assessment, a little bit. But we were here, you were here, and we heard that. So yeah. What do other board members think?
I understand what's being said. And I agree, Sean did say that they would be able to sell them at a lower price point. So that hopefully that would make it easier to do. But they would also go in knowing that. So they wouldn't be blindsided by it.
I agree with what Ron says. Special assessment districts are all over the county, all over the United States. And if there's something that's happening in a neighborhood that affects only those people who live in it, they should have to pay for that and not all of us. I mean, look, right now, we're all paying 4.4 mils for something that most of us don't get. So by having a special assessment district for the people who will be living and using water in that neighborhood, they know they're going to be paying that. I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere, so it's going to cost extra to get water to them. So I'm for following the suggestion, the direction of our attorney tonight.
Right.
I guess there's one way to do it.
Well, and I understand, I understand the point. I understand the concern. I also know it's been a very long time. I know we have had a lot of meetings. It's unfortunate that trustee Kosick isn't here tonight. I know he has had input. We've had other meetings, I think at Sue Dickinson's, and unfortunately he was not able to attend. So, but we can't, we have to go forward with meetings when people aren't here as well. So I'm of two minds. Yeah.
I think this will count. Tom up here with Norfolk. As the builder, again, I agree with you that people come in, with the choice if they want to choose to purchase the home, they obviously know what they're buying to do that. Another option for us to be, or to look at, and would be, we can pay the special assessment off when we transfer the property. Again, nothing's free in this world, so the price of those homes will go up to cover that, but if you're concerned about the burden, long-term, we can pay the special assessment off when they buy and close up the property. That happens all the time as well. It'll just come down to, you can raise the price of the home and they can pay for it, or they can pay for it over time. But at the end of the day, they're willingly going in and signing a purchase agreement to purchase a piece of property with those terms on it. People move into the city of Chelsea and agree to pay Chelsea taxes. People move to Sylvan Township and they agree to pay Sylvan Township taxes. Everything's up front. This is nothing that's being put on any current resident that is there. We own all the property, we control it. So everybody coming into this project will be doing it at their own free will. That's my.
Scott, I see your hand up back there. It's not really a public hearing, though. This is not a time for, public. Okay, well, and our attorney was here earlier. Hopefully he would.
He's correct.
Right.
We own all the votes.
Here's my point on this.
It's- Scott, this is not the appropriate time. I really value what you have to say, but we can't have everybody during the business meeting of the township. We have 3-minute public comment and that's what it's for. I really do. I really value what you want to say on that. Does it matter, Mr. Cooper? There's a public comment portion. When we have public hearing meetings where this exchange does happen and where it's encouraged, but regular business meetings are where we're conducting the business of the township and the board's here to do that in front of the public, and the public has an opportunity to speak at public comment. But we had a meeting at 6 o'clock and that was there. This is the business meeting of the township. Mr. Cooper, this is enough. This is not the appropriate time for the public to be going on like this. We have listen, thank you. So the issue is in front of the board. And I understand what people are saying. I understand what Sandy's saying. I feel like Mr. Thal is well-versed in the law. He would let us know if there was something that we need to look out for. I also understand the questions from the people. I understand Patrick's questions. I frankly don't know the answer to the bond question, and maybe I should, or maybe, someone here does. But I think those are good questions.
But don't you think we should
I
answer
think-
those questions?
Well, that's why I'm getting to my point, is that I think it's better to make sure that everybody's comfortable and we answer all of our questions. I know we also cannot cause undue delay on, our decisions here. I'm also thinking we're going to be having a special meeting before our next meeting because we need to have a budget discussion meeting. Would 2 more weeks give people sufficient time? Would it be appropriate for people to ask questions, any more questions they have of Thal? We did get the revised consent agreement at 10 this morning, and then the attachments came later this afternoon. You know, we rely heavily on Mr. Thal, but people have questions they may have thought of. So I would rather err on the side of making sure we understand the questions, answer those questions. I also want to be cautious that we're not causing any necessary delays. So if we had a meeting in 2 weeks, would people feel better about that? And Mr. Lafleur, am I able to put you on the spot and say, is that well, I know it's been a long time, and so that's a double-edged sword. We're both anxious, and we both also want to make sure that we're, you know, doing the appropriate thing. So,
Are you looking at the end of the week of the 19th of February or the next week, the 26th?
whatever is available for people, it has been very difficult lately to get all 5 board members available at one time. So we could set a special meeting here tonight.
Yep.
We would have to make sure that Mr. Kosick is available, but if we wanted to do that, then we'd have it down.
We will need to probably have it. We will not be able to have it in the boardroom because early voting starts the 17th. So.
Okay,
End of
Um,
next
no-
week.
no, like the 15th,
Let's do the
that's,
15th. We have a planning commission meeting that night, so we'd have to have it earlier in the day.
I'm available that day,
I am too.
Thursday the 15th. Sandy?
Works for me.
Oh, my word. Everybody put it in your calendars. Or well, tentatively, I mean, we would of course need to make sure, and
During the
Amanda, if
day.
you're also
Day because the planning commission meets.
in the evening
Yeah.
here, understood. And we could say 10 o'clock,
The clock works.
10 o'clock. Amanda, does that work for you?
What time? I'm sorry, what time did you say?
10 o'clock AM or 9:30 or?
I'm tentatively going to say that, but there are so many trainings we have before this election, so I'll definitely,
Okay, well,
we may need to adjust based on what's coming. I
okay.
don't have it on my phone here. I have my calendar in my office. It's not reflected here.
Okay, okay. All right. All right, well, let's tentatively set that then for Thursday, the 15th at 10 AM, and I'll confirm that and I'll, okay. And then we can, anybody who has questions, email them to me. I will send them to Thal. We make sure we have plenty of time for him to, you know, read them and answer them. So as soon as possible, any questions for the attorney, get those to me. And Bob Skull's available for here. He's been through the whole thing and has, you know, talked to, Ted Erickson. And he's also here for people who have questions for him. All right, well then I'll make a motion that we table the discussion on Westchester to the 15th at 10 o'clock.
I'll second.
All right, motion from me, supported by Rod. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. Thanks, Sean. All right, thank you. The next item is the poverty exemption guidelines provided to us by, Assessor Catherine Skull. Let's see. Oh, and I don't know if anybody else's, but my budget reports were chopped off. Like all these reports and the payroll report, I can't tell what anybody's gotten paid. So if you could provide that. That was, yeah. Just outside of the sheet there. All right, so Catherine Skull, so for Board of Review, the state of Michigan has, and the federal government has poverty exemption guidelines. I guess it's the federal poverty guidelines as set forth. And they are very low. It's the federal poverty level. And so townships are able to have a township poverty level, which we have maintained at the same numbers that the schools use for reduced lunches. So it's approximately double of what the federal poverty level is. And so if you are, come to Board of Review and you are at that federal poverty level, there's a certain percentage that you will be relieved of your taxes. Then Sylvan Township has a level where you could be relieved just a portion of your taxes, say maybe 25%, because you're not at that federal level, but you know, maybe you made $100 too much and so then there's nothing. So what Sylvan has traditionally done is we have our hardship guidelines that are in line with the school reduced lunch poverty standards. So Catherine is presenting this to us. The guidelines were approved at Board of Review. It looks like here they were presented, moved by Lee Aaron, seconded by Dave Reinhardt to approve the 2024 Sylvan Township Hardship Guidelines, Exemption Guidelines, and eligibility limits. So it has been approved by the Board of Review and just needs to come up to the Sylvan Township, the board level for approval. And she has her information here, and then on page 3 is the guideline levels. In addition to the income, there are also restrictions on assets that you can have and things like that. So it's not just strictly on your income. There's a whole application and form that people fill out, provide information to the assessor and the Board of Review if they are seeking a poverty exemption.
I'm not sure I understand what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, we need to approve the poverty guidelines as she has put here in her thing. The Board of Review has approved it, but now it needs to come to the Township Board, so we officially approve it and say in 2024, these are the hardship guidelines that Sylvan Township will be working with. I believe it's a motion.
I move that we accept the guidelines as submitted by Captain Saul,
Right, thank
as
you.
approved by the
Board of
Board of
Review.
Review.
Second that.
for 2024.
I'll second.
You got all that? Okay. All right, thank you. Motion from Sandy, support from Rod to approve the guidelines as presented. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Motion carries. What's that for agenda up next? What is next? Oh, the resolution for the fee
Resolution.
schedule.
Was brought to my attention that we needed to approve the fee schedule by resolution. So this is more of a formality. I know we approved it by motion last board meeting. So I would just move to approve resolution 24-1 to adopt the newest fee schedule that Scott presented to us. Last board meeting that we approved by motion.
I'll second.
All right. So resolution 2401, supposed to read these, okay, so this is a short one, but whereas the Township of Sylvan has determined it necessary to collect certain fees for directly rendered services, and whereas such fees offset the expenses incurred by the township relating to such services, and whereas such fees must stay current to effectively cover the related expenses. And whereas the Sylvan Township Board adopts a schedule related to such fees, Therefore, be it resolved, the Sylvan Township Board, by the Sylvan Township Board, that the following schedule sets forth the fees for such services. And then it enumerates the fees and listed. And I think we're gonna be looking at this again, maybe in the future, but this is
Soon, I think.
right to, yes. All right, so that was a motion from Amanda, correct, to?
Yes.
All right, was there support?
I did.
Thank you, Rod.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Oh, we're skipping that one. Oh, the VC 3 to install the computers.
I thought that we had done this, but it was brought to my attention we did not. So I'd like to move to authorize the expenditure of $5,280 for VC3 to install and deploy the new computers using ARPA funds.
All right, motion from Rod, support from Sandy. Did we use ARPA funds to purchase the computers?
I
Or
believe
did we? Because I was thinking we should be consistent and
I know.
was that in December? I don't think I was here and because we didn't necessarily discuss ARPA funds. I mean, maybe you did it. Again, I wasn't at the meeting.
I don't
think,
remember us.
I,
so-
I don't remember for sure. But
Well, I
I
think
think-
we have in our budget to use our general fund money to purchase these computers. That's what we need to do. Because we're gonna fritter away that ARPA money.
Right.
No, we're not gonna fritter away the ARPA money. We're gonna have a discussion and we're gonna come up, we have some really concrete ideas in the hopper. Speaking of concrete, one of them might be to pave the parking lot. So anyway, yeah, that's, it's one of many ideas that we have. There's a lot of good uses for the ARPA funds, but I'm just thinking if we used, township funds to purchase, it makes sense to me that we would use township funds to install kind of rather than splitting them up.
That's fine.
So
So where do you know where you will, where is that available in the budget? Outside of ARPA funds?
yeah, it's not. I mean, we would end up doing a a
Mm.
budget amendment for this at the end of the year. I mean, we purchased them. We gotta make sure that we're using them and installing them, right? So,
I mean, I would
don't
lean
know.
towards if we know we have, if we're designating ARPA funds, we know we have ARPA funds that we don't know, we don't have it in the budget, then we're trying to go, well, where are they coming from?
well, and that's true. And then that's just work we have to do further down the line to take it out. And 5,200, we have over $300,000 in ARPA funds. So 5,200
Isn't gonna hurt.
is a pretty small number to come up there.
Right.
We still have a significant number. Okay, all right, I'm satisfied. Any other discussion? Just me. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Oh, sorry.
Are we voting?
We're voting for Rod's motion, which was to expend the monies to VC3 to install and deploy the new computers using ARPA funds.
No.
Okay, are you the one there? All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I just had a last minute thought. I wanted to propose to the board that we have another camera. The back of the offices where the clerk's office is right now is not covered by any of the cameras. And, on election day, when someone comes in and they're trying to vote and they're not in the poll book, the chairperson will take that person back to see the clerk, but the chairperson has to come back. So there were many times I would have a person in the office with me and they're upset. Tensions might be high, emotions are high. And so I'm just a little concerned that the clerk's office is not covered by a camera right now. So an election day, things could happen at 7 PM and none of the rest of us are here. So once we realized that, I think everyone was like, yeah, we really need to have that corner of the office protected. Fortunately, we just got all the new camera systems. I wish I would have thought of it then. But what I would like to propose is we ask the installers who did the last one if they can come and put one additional camera back to protect that back door where the state police come in and sometimes Sylvan Township personnel as well, because that's a real hidden corner of the office and that doesn't feel good.
Last place to look too. last
It
place to
is.
check.
I'm really surprised that the camera people didn't notice that when they were here assessing where the cameras needed to go. I mean, when you say that there's no camera there, that is an outside
Door, yeah.
So
yeah.
there definitely needs to be a camera there.
I think it was probably overlooked because it wasn't done originally.
They
It
just
could
followed the old
be.
system.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
So, but I did not have time to go back and look at our, thing to see what one camera would cost.
We need to buy the camera.
We do need to buy the camera. So what I put on here was not to exceed $2,000. I really don't know how much they are, but I would be surprised if it costs more than that for one camera and
Well,
installation.
it'll be the cost of the camera though and their labor, and then they'll have to run additional,
Line- wire.
lines in the attic.
Well, at
So-
least they know where the attic is.
I know.
So do you think that it should be more? I mean, I want us to be able to do this and go forward.
So we only have to do this one.
Yes, thank you. I like that, Sandy. What do you guys think? I really cannot
Randy, you
remember.
probably have a better grip on that. Would 4 cover it?
4,000?
Yeah, well, for sure.
Okay,
It was only 6,000 to do all the cameras in this.
Oh, well, shoot then. 2,000 probably would cover it, but let's be safe.
okay. And did we do those cameras? Were those ARPA funds too, or
Yes,
no? They
yes,
were,
Yep.
all right, so then it would be the same funding source then to add this additional one, I would think.
And so what
Yes.
do you want
Yes.
to up, so what are you upping it to?
I think we said 4,000. So, okay, I'll make a motion that we, approve the purchase and installation of one additional camera for the township offices for an amount not to exceed $4,000.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you. Hopefully it'll come in way less than that.
Yeah.
All right, that is all on our agenda for tonight. Coming around to another public comment. Again, everyone has 3 minutes. They can come up and address the board or the public and say what they would like to say. Yes, and then we'll go back to Scott. Dave.
I'm Dave Reinhardt, a resident of Sylvan Township. I'm very glad you postponed Westchester for a couple of weeks here. I think it's critical we know who owns the bond. And also, all the comments about burdening, the buyer beware and they know what they're getting into. Does this special assessment district include the existing homes? Because that would be a surprise.
I
It
don't
would be
think
a
so.
new- Okay, that's good then. So those need to be cleared. So
Thank you. Yes, Scott.
Possibly as much as this board doesn't like hearing from me, it galls me to have to get up here to remind the board of certain things. I don't believe that you can burden people with a special assessment district unless they have input and they have to vote on it. And I think what the Westchester Farms is trying to do is make us look bad, opening this can of worms up, to put this water issue and be able to tell new purchasers, we had nothing to do with it. It was the township. When in fact, what they need to do to cover their costs, because it's through their ineptness that this is required, they need to raise the price of their homes. And if they don't sell them, they don't sell them, but they can reduce the price. Many of you came from corporate world before. We used to have a thing called poor preparation on your part doesn't require, an emergency on my behalf. Taking only a couple weeks to do this till you get everything right. I've been preaching every time I get up here for the last 3 years that you don't present your agenda properly where you have everything vetted out and all your questions answered. I just wish that you would get it straight so that we aren't burdened here with extra time on things that then get tabled. Damn.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Amy Kobarchak, resident. So I think the problem with adding an agenda item in the middle of this meeting is I have no idea what we're even talking about. There's no context. So even if I'm sitting there and I'm trying, and then a gentleman just clearly from Norfolk wants to talk about it, but there's nothing for me to read. There's no way for me to know what it is that you're about to vote on. And we were going down that path of voting. And I don't think that that's fair to the residents because again, we come here prepared to read this and go, okay, this is what we're doing. And then it changes. So I'm not in favor of making an adjustment to the agenda right smack in the middle of a meeting, unless you have documentation that you can then disperse to the people in the room that we can actually read and understand what it is that we're talking about. Because I don't know what the the special assessment is. I did miss the last meeting. So I don't really think that's, you know, I agree with Scott that, you know, we should not try to do that stuff in the middle of a meeting. And I'm a little, I guess I was a little confused on the purchase of the computers because when we approved the quote or was voted for VC was it VC3 to come through? I thought this was already on the quote back on October 3rd as part of the purchase and it was coming from, it was not planned for and it was coming from it was not planned for in the budget. So it was coming from unbudgeted funds. So then we changed that to move it to ARPA. Is that, I just want to make sure that I understand what happened there. Because I thought it was an unapproved budget item. And I would again say that as part of our planning, financial planning, technology should be part of that. It needs to be part of that. It is cyclical. Every 4 to 6 years, you're going to need new computers, you're going to need IT something, and that should be in the budget so that we are not trying to figure out where to get money from, and in the, you know, as things are coming up. So I would like to see an actual IT budget line item that accounts for all of that stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. 4 to 6 years, it feels like that's not very long, but it is, so yeah, that's, technology moves fast. Okay, other. Good to know. Any other public comments tonight? All right, no? Okay, Board of Trustee member comments? Any board member comments tonight?
The only thing I would say is, as you know, we're coming up on the February 27th, 2024 presidential primary. And we will have 9 days of early voting and Sylvan Township is the regional site for this side of the county. So that will start on February the 17th and run through the 25th. So you are welcome to come in and vote any of those days in addition to the election. What has changed this year is that if you are on the absentee ballot list, you don't have to be on that list. If you request an absentee ballot, in the past, you would have to have submitted that to be counted by a count board. What's changed this year is that you can bring that ballot to the township during early voting or the day of the election, and you can actually process that through the tabulator yourself. So you don't have to just turn that in to be counted by a count board. That's new this year. So we have issued and mailed 626 absentee voter ballots. We've received 150 back. So it's just, as we talked about last time, it's just a lot of work. with the new laws. So we are working through this, and this will be an interesting experience for Sylvan Township to be that regional voting site. We'll be here a lot.
And I think that's a proud moment for Sylvan. I'm happy that we were able to step up and be that spot. We have this great room and it's another opportunity for us to shine. So I'm glad that that worked out. To do that.
County can come here?
No, it would be those within the regional site. I believe it's the city of Chelsea, Linden, Lima, and Sylvan are within this region. And then anyone can also go to the Learning Resources Center, which is on Hogback. That's the actual central site for the entire county. So anyone can go to that site to vote, but then you need to be in this regional, the regional districts here on the western side to vote in Sylvan, which you would have received a postcard from the county, I believe a couple weeks ago, letting you know where your regional site was.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind everybody about taxes, February 14th, the last day to pay without any interest added on. And I'll be open 9 to 5 that day. And I'll be open 9 to 5 on the 28th as the first they go to the county, and then you really get socked. So make sure you get them in.
Great. And I just want to mention that I'm communicating with the county right now to talk about the bond and how quickly we can pay this off. We're, sending the tap fee monies, which we know we need to pay. There'll be winter monies coming in. I'm excited. I really feel like we are on the cusp of resolution on that. That's what I'll say.
Can you please forward those communications from the county to us so we can
Yeah.
see, just have a sense of what their
Yep.
feedback is?
I just reached out to Tom Sweeney and Tina Gavalier, and then they suggested a couple meetings for a Zoom meeting next week or the week after. And so I can, see what dates work for everybody. I know traditionally, the board is there to hear. I know you're gonna be super busy, so, there hasn't been a date picked out, but I can run by the options by you guys and
Okay.
see what works best
Thank
for
you.
everybody. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're still moving that forward. I know that's a big thing on everybody's minds. The update with Chelsea, I think Patrick said something about it earlier. Bob Skull met with, Chelsea, the technical people there, the superintendent Corey, and they talked about, things that technical stuff. So as far as I know, things are moving along, we, put out the quote, got the quote back, approved one. Nothing's come up to the board level that I've heard of, but I know that the work continues together. So that's the update. It's not much of an update, but the work continues. All right, Can you?
Yes, I do.
excellent.
So I want to get us back on track and getting the folks from Washtenaw County Recycling to come here and talk to us
Okay,
soon.
yes, I reached out to them and,
And since we already have a land preservation policy, I think I think probably for the next meeting, then I'm going to suggest that the board establish a group to study land preservation policies. I think we definitely need to look at Dexter, who's our closer neighbor and kind of like us, but more people. And certainly we can work with Scott to get it updated. I mean, it's a big
Mhm.
deal already having a policy. I mean, ordinance, which I did not know we did, but Carol told me that before she left.
yes.
So I'd like us to move on that too. All this stuff takes such a long time, and the
Yes.
longer it takes us to get it started, it's like, I want to add comma in my lifetime. I would like to see this happen.
Right.
That's it.
And I will say, I feel like part of the problem is that we're part-time office and a really part-time office. We're open 12 hours a week. and we work in a full-time world. Nobody else is working these hours, right? So it's difficult. We're all putting in more than the 12 hours we're open. But even if we're putting in 20 or 30 hours, you know, is it enough? There's just so many things to pursue and to look at, and all very worthy. You know, and real quickly, I know everybody wants to go, but this month, I had to pick up my child one day from school and the flag was at half-staff. And I thought, why is the flag at half-staff? We used to get notices here. And it was for the trooper who had been killed while he was assisting someone on the side of the road. And so the governor had declared that the flag would be lowered that day for his funeral. And I think this was when I looked it up, it was already the day after, so it should have been lowered the day before. And we house the state police detachment. I was it's embarrassing, I think, to me and to us that we weren't on top of that. And I was mentioning it to somebody here, and it kind of was something where, you know, I think, Amy, I think you mentioned to me after a board meeting one time, like, have a bulletin board, because what Trenda had said to me is, there's probably someone in the community, a veteran, who would love nothing more than to be responsible for helping us or something. Because, you know, things like that that just feels bad. That shouldn't have happened. We should have had our flag down. So, you know, whether it's someone here who's designated as the person, but I kind of like the idea of also inviting the community to come into this community space and to help the township and to help us, just maintain, a good appearance and good relations. So I'm gonna mention that. We'll do our best to stay on top of it. If you happen to go by and see something and you want to mention it to us, please do. You know, we were not aware that day, and that, we should have had the flag down, so. All right, any other comments? All right, motion.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn from Rod at 8:14. Thank you, Sandy. Support. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you.
The cameras downstairs.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there are. Yeah.
Every entrance.
I don't know if the police have have a camera in their entrance down there, you know, where their little door is down there too. Right. Right. Well, and when the door got fixed down there, I wrote to the state police and they said, we'll give you $1,000 because they have monies put aside for it. So maybe they would do something like that as well. So, yeah. And listen to me, forever, ever, Scott, since you were here. That's the only door. That back door has been here for years and it's never been looked at. So, you know.